Hi, welcome to the Shadows and Secrets Deep Dive series. I am Kerry Savage.
And I am Samantha Skal. Together, we are Shadows and Secrets, a series of retreats in an online community for mystery, thriller, suspense, and horror authors.
Find out more on shadowsandsecrets.com.
Incredible. We are both book coaches and authors, and we love talking about story. This is our series of spoiler alert deep dives into scary books we love, where we talk about twists, structure, masterful misdirection, villains, and anything else that strikes our fancy about MTS, which is the overarching genre term for mystery, thriller, and suspense. But before we get into it, I'd like to introduce my co-founder of Shadows and Secrets, Carrie.
Hello, and thank you, Sam. I'm Kerry Savage. I'm a writer and a book coach, and I love working with writers to make their fictional ideas come to life. I am super into immersive settings and details that really pull you into a book's world, which is something that our author today did an amazing and fantastic job of. And now tell the people a little more about you, Sam.
Oh, thank you so much. I love working with thriller, mystery, and suspense and horror authors to plan and write twisty novels. And my superpower is brainstorming twists and villains, people doing the bad things in books.
She's really good at it. All right. So, as Sam already said, we are going to be giving everything away, including key plot points here. So, if you have not read today's book, hit pause, go read it, and then come back.
Indeed. Seriously, there will be no secrets unturned, so consider this your final spoiler alert warning. The structure of these talks is the same every time we do this. We read the book jacket copy and then what the author has done to manipulate us before we even start.
And then we read the first page and talk about what the author has done to manipulate us there.
And then we break down each of the major twists in terms of how the author did it, what percentage of the way through it happened, and what on-screen clues existed so that the twist worked.
We also talk through how the author accomplished the overall misdirection and manipulation of the reader, and the way the author used language or setting or other elements to set the reader up for maximum fear.
Which is why we read scary shit. We like to be scared by fiction.
Oh, hell yes, we do. All right, are we ready to talk about this classic?
We sure are. So I'm going to hold up my Kindle version on my
Excellent.
phone.
Yes, mine has the same cover, so I'll
Yep,
just let
yep.
you handle that.
Stephen King's Carrie. What a delight. This is in honor of Spooky Month. We are filming this on October 23rd, so there are just a few days left until October 31st, my favorite holiday after Thanksgiving.
Mm.
All right, I'm going to read the Amazon description. And of course, this book has been out for a very long time. And so they recently re-released it. Oh my God, 50th anniversary. Um,
I feel old.
yep. Yep. It is not shockingly a number one New York Times bestseller. And this one that I just showed the cover of has a new introduction by Margaret Atwood, which is a delight. So definitely worth rebuying, re-downloading, re-getting from the library, however you absorb your fiction.
Mhm.
This is Stephen King's debut, and she talks about,
Really?
yes, how he threw it away, and his wife Tabitha pulled it from the trash and was like, "I want to know what happens." And then he finished it, and then it like launched him
The rest
into
is history.
the rest is
I didn't
history.
realize it was his debut. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
And so when you read it from that perspective, you're like, okay, well, here's a talent, a
Right?
person who really knows how to tell story. So here is I'm assuming what is effectively the book jacket copy. I don't have the physical copy of the book, so we're just going to assume that this is pretty close.
Mhm.
Unpopular at school and subjected to her mother's religious fanaticism at home, Carrie White does not have it easy. But while she may be picked on by her classmates, she has a gift she's kept secret since she was a little girl. She can move things with her mind. Doors lock, candles fall. Her ability has been both a power and a problem. And when she finds herself the recipient of a sudden act of kindness, Carrie feels like she's finally been given a chance to be normal. She hopes the nightmare of her classmates' vicious taunts is over, but an unexpected and cruel prank turns her gift into a weapon of horror so destructive that the town may never recover. It's so good.
It's delicious.
All right. So, um, question for you.
Oh
What
boy.
is this YA? Is it
No.
adult?
Well, so that's actually like my gut reaction is instantly no. Although, I mean, I think like many people watching, or at least many people of my Gen X generation, I think we all came to Stephen King, or a lot of us came to Stephen King when we were teenagers. I
Yeah.
certainly did.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the reasons why this resonated with me so well back then as well. Is just like, oh, yeah, this is what it's like to be a bullied teenager. Hell yeah. Thankfully, I was never bullied quite that badly,
Right.
but I was, and I was a little bit of an oddball, go figure. So I really empathized with her to a certain point. I don't want to burn down the small town that I grew up in New Hampshire, but there was something that in there that I could connect to, and I never would have thought of it as a YA novel. But it's a really fascinating question. Today, would it be probably
Probably,
because she's
right?
a teenage protagonist, right? And
In the
that's sort of a
whole,
rule number one.
yeah, yeah. And it's a coming of age story,
Mm-hmm.
with disastrous consequences.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious. It's not listed as YA on Amazon. It's number 36, even after 50 years
That's
in ghost
incredible.
fiction, number 801 in literary fiction, and
Huh.
number 1087 in suspense thrillers. I mean, agreed with all of that. Maybe not
Sure.
ghost fiction is like, I mean, I guess because it's telekinesis and a little outside
Yeah,
the,
they're squishing that in like the paranormal
yeah.
kind of thing. Okay. Um, it's funny because like it is to me like this is really straight horror. And I think when we talk about what the author does to manipulate us, this is also something that I think is such a hallmark of why like this is a 50-year anniversary. I don't like there's very little direct manipulation in the book jacket copy like you would see in a novel that was released
Hmm.
today. Like I don't think if this were released today, I think the book jacket copy might be different. Maybe not completely different, but I think it would be very different. Not all right. It would be different.
Yeah.
Just because of the expectations and how books are now marketed to modern readers. Um, so yeah, like a couple of interesting questions there. I don't feel manipulated. I feel like, oh, you've laid out this story here, and
Yeah.
I'm reading to figure out like, well, I know it's like shit's gonna go down. Like, lay it out for me. Like, that's not a surprise that everything goes to hell. But just like exactly how and why and how it unfolds is the suspense there. So you know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. I guess that is the thriller aspect, right? You know something
Yeah.
bad is gonna happen. No one's particularly trying to stop it, but you're just like trying to see like what's going to happen next.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And similar to like a haunted house, true thriller, not a little horror really, but like we know that it's just going to get worse, right? Like we
Mm-hmm.
know that chaos will not be brought to order.
Mm-mm.
And we understand that we are buckling up for a ride of a story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree. It's not really a classic, like, there are some, well, I don't know. We'll get into the twists in this. There's climactic moments, there's a midpoint, there's a climactic scene, but there's not really something where, well, there is a twist at the very, very end in
I
that,
think I was yeah, when I was thinking about how we normally evaluate these things, and
yeah,
what we bring to shadows in terms of the way we coach these things too. And it doesn't neatly line up with I think the again, it's modern expectations, right? And
true.
modern like the way the sort of like we're what we see as being successful and popular in fiction today, specifically thriller and mystery and thriller. Um, but I did find like I was the one place where I got stuck, and maybe I'm jumping ahead here, is the story question. I could not figure out the story question. I think I nailed everything else, or at least what I thought
Yeah.
everything else was. Did you come up with a story question, my friend?
I would like to noodle on it a little more.
Okay,
But
fair.
before we get into that, I just for new listeners, our definition of a twist is an assumption that is proven
Mm,
incorrect. And we have on the page what those assumptions are. And so one could
mhm.
argue that oh my gosh, I just forgot her name. The girl who gets her boyfriend Sue
Sue
to
Snell.
get her boyfriend to ask Carrie out. She's assuming that that's going to be an act of kindness that will result in chaos being brought to order because she has done something mean to Carrie. She throws a pad at her, a tampon, after Carrie gets her first period, and she feels badly, and so she's doing this in order to right the wrong of the world. That technically, by our definition, could be a twist because she's assuming it's going to be one thing and it's not.
Mm,
But I think what makes it not a classic twist is that we're seeing so much from Carrie's POV and also these very interesting. interstitial sort of drop-ins of like a book about the entire incident where we know from basically the beginning that everyone's going to die, which I
Hmm.
think is fabulous suspense and maybe wouldn't fly in like modern horror, because I mean maybe it would, but Stephen King just did it so masterfully in this book that it would be you'd understand that it was copying that format and you'd kind of know what was going to happen. But anyway, so that's what twists are. And then also one of the hallmarks of what we talk about at Shadows and Secrets is understanding who your villain is.
Hmm.
And Carrie's obviously our villain, but in terms of like if you're looking at the protagonist as being Sue, which is arguable, which I think it's probably Carrie, but it could be Sue,
Had
like
that moment where I was thinking about like how that worked too. Yes. So,
yeah, it kind of I think you could go either way and you could make an argument either way. I think I take it that Carrie is the protagonist. She's the one we care the most about. We're on her side even as she's like blasting people open. Um, and the villain is the leader of the Mean Girls and her evil boyfriend, right? Like that's the villain. But again, we know what they're after the entire time. They're there to take Carrie down to humiliate her. And so it's not like there's some surprise when it goes badly. Like we understand that they have achieved their goals. So yeah. Story question. Will Carrie get her revenge?
oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Because we enter into the story where she's had her period, she's terrified, and she gets made fun of for it, and
Mhm.
it's true classic bullying, and it's awful.
Yeah.
Uh, and she's angry, but she doesn't have any place to put it. And
Hmm.
then she thinks, when Tommy asks her out, it's going to be okay, and maybe this is like a little bit of high school redemption. And then she has this delicious moment where she's looking in after she's locked the doors of the gym
Yep.
and kills everyone. Anyway, I think that's what I think the story question is will Carrie get her revenge? Or will she be able to control herself? But that's a little less, you know.
I mean the will she get her revenge is like high drama, so
Yeah.
I think that feels good as like we it doesn't always have to be high drama, your story question. It's okay if it's not, but like that
Yeah.
feels I agree, that feels better to me as a story question in this
Let's
instance.
sit with that and see how we do as
Okay.
we read the first few pages.
All
So,
right.
let's skip Margaret Atwood's thing despite it
Yeah.
being uh
Margaret
delightful.
Atwood.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look at seeing where it was initially
I think
published.
so. Part one, Bloodsport.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I will read what is my first page, maybe plus a paragraph or something, because we get
Yeah.
it starts as sprinkled throughout the book is these little, reports from various media,
Hmm.
newspapers, like magazine articles, commission reports, all of that kind of thing, which is something that I'm sure we will talk about because it's
Yes.
fascinating. All right. News item from the Westover, Maine Weekly Enterprise, August 19th, 1966. Rain of stones reported. It was reliably reported by several persons that a rain of stones fell from a clear blue sky on Carlin Street in the town of Chamberlain on August 17th. The stones fell principally on the home of Mrs. Margaret White, damaging the roof extensively and ruining two gutters and a downspout valued at approximately $25. Love that little detail. Mrs. White, a widow, lives with her 3-year-old daughter, Carrietta. Mrs. White could not be reached for comment. So that's the end of that. Nobody was really surprised when it happened. Not really. Not at the subconscious level where savage things grow. On the surface, all the girls in the shower room were shocked, thrilled, shamed, or simply glad that the white bitch had taken it in the mouth again. Some of them might have also claimed surprise, but of course their claim was untrue. Carrie had been going to school with some of them since the first grade, and this had been building since that time, building slowly and immutably, in accordance with all the laws that govern human nature, building with all the steadiness of a chain reaction approaching critical mass. What none of them knew, of course, was that Carrie White was telekinetic. Could stop there, but want to keep going?
Yeah, a little bit. Read to me more.
All right. Graffiti scratched on a desk of the Barker Street Grammar School in Chamberlain. Carrie White eats shit. The locker room was filled with shouts, echoes, and the subterranean sound of the showers splashing on tile. The girls had been playing volleyball in period one, and their morning sweat was light and eager. Girls stretched and writhed under the hot water, squalling, flicking water, squirting white bars of soap from hand to hand. Carrie stood among them stolidly, a frog among swans. She was a chunky girl with pimples on her neck and back and buttocks, her wet hair completely without color. It rested against her face with dispirited sogginess, and she simply stood, head slightly bent, letting the water splat against her flesh and roll off. She looked the part of the sacrificial goat, the constant butt, believer in left-handed monkey wrenches, perpetual foul-up, and she was. She wished forlornly and constantly that you in high school had individual, and thus private showers, like in the high schools at Westover or Lewiston. They stared. They always stared.
Jesus. It's so brutal. Also, just every middle school girl understands what it's like
Oh,
to be in a terrible shower room. Um,
mm-hmm.
yeah. So, first of all, omniscient POV,
Yep.
true omniscience throughout this. And
Oh.
this narrator has opinions
Mm.
and commentary and their own point of view. And I just always kind of picture Stephen King's voice because I listened to one of his books where he narrated it. And so now that's just in my head, which is delightful. Highly recommend. But you know, the choice to talk about how what none of them knew, like the word choice in here, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's so visceral and like splat,
Yes. That
right.
word, splat. Like how often do you see that and yet it's so perfect in that
Yeah.
moment? Um, yeah, very, very visceral and it keeps going. And it's funny for and this is something I maybe would get to later too, but I think one of the things that I found, and again with his debut, but also this is a man writing about periods and teenage girls, and like he
Yeah.
does it really, really well.
He does.
And he touched this subject that people still in 2025 feel like icky and weird about, and got, with when he's describing what happened with Carrie getting her period and she doesn't know what it is, and how all the girls, I mean, she's set up because she's been bullied forever for all of this to happen, but he also captures everybody's discomfort with what it is that is happening to her, which made it that much worse. And I thought like that is so insightful. Like I get that as a
Mhm.
woman, but like not everybody would. So
Yeah.
I
No,
was really
he
impressed with that.
I agree completely. And just the sort of like, I mean, we already said the word visceral, but it just keeps coming back up in my head about, wishing there were private showers and like, your body is changing so much at that age and you just don't even know who you are or what's happening and everything's terrifying and you like vacillate between rage and lust and hunger and sleepiness and like, it's everything's on like an 11 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe I'm projecting because again, I once was a middle school girl, but like that's that opening scene, you're just like, oh damn, yeah,
Well, and
takes you
it's
right back.
so, it does, and it's such a vulnerable place to be, right? You're already a teenager, you're already feeling all the things as you just so
Yeah.
wonderfully described.
Or
And
high
you're
school
also
girl. They're in high school. I keep
high
forgetting
school,
that.
middle
Yeah.
school, but it's like, it's that whole period of adolescence that is really just a shit show.
Total shit show. Yeah.
And you're naked and this thing
Yes.
happens to you and you've like you're bleeding and you have no idea why. Like it's such a vulnerable place to be. And I think we can all empathize with that. And you're already with the
Mhm.
butt of the jokes. All you want to do, if you're Carrie, I'm sure, is disappear. You just don't want
Yeah.
anyone to notice you at all. Just like let me get through the day without anyone saying anything or paying any attention. Give me no notice. Like, she's all hunched over. Like he talks about, just like trying to disappear. And then in this incredibly vulnerable moment, this thing happens to her, which makes her even more vulnerable. And everybody feels weird. And they do what awful teenage girls do, which is a lot of teenage girls, is,
Yeah.
you know, they sense the weakness and it's like they go for it and
Yeah.
make it worse.
Indeed.
Sorry, teenage girls. I was one.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No,
I know from which I
it's a
speak.
time. It's a time.
It sure is.
Um, the emotional beginning for Carrie here, like of course this is the inciting incident, right?
Mhm.
It's in the first chapter.
Yep,
There aren't
sure
really
is.
like I mean, there are chapters in here, but they're weird because we have so many little like
It's really more like the parts, I
the
feel like.
parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, she's like actually hunched over. She's actually trying to hide. She's actually trying to disappear. She doesn't have any agency at all.
Mm-mm.
She's starting from the ground. And then by the end, she's has all the power and all the
Mhm.
agency. And in terms of an emotional arc, like there is a point that I would love to talk about
Mm.
a little bit later about like when she actually has her emotional aha. I think it's when
Mm.
she's right outside the gym
I
and
have
she
that
looks
same
in.
passage. Yep.
Yeah, and she
Yeah, totally
decides, and
agree.
I have it written down.
Oh, good. Me too.
It's
That's
that
the
like
impression that it left.
yeah, it's 78% of the way through, adjusted for if I'm doing that right from all the page numbers in the Kindle version. But um, she goes from feeling worthless to being, it was time to teach them a lesson, time to show them a thing or two. She giggled hysterically. It was one of Mama's pet phrases. And it's like, you're just like, oh yeah, okay, okay. Um,
Yeah, I had that, and then the next, I think like one more paragraph down, it said like she heard some of them scream, and it was music, sweet soul music. For a moment, nothing changed, and then she could feel them pushing against the doors, wanting them to open. The pressure was negligible. They were trapped in that little like parenthetical
yeah,
thing that he does to like really
yeah,
like drive home the interiority there. And the word echoed intoxicatingly in her mind. They were under her thumb, her power. Power, what a word that was. It's like, oh yeah, like
yeah.
so well done as an
It's so
emotional
well done.
aha moment. Like that, those like four paragraphs right there just like nailed it home so hard. Like
Yeah.
she goes from being that shrunken person who doesn't want anyone to see her and just feels like she has absolutely no agency whatsoever between like the bullying at school and then her mother who just thinks that like has hated her since birth because of what she represents.
Hmm.
And in that moment at 78%, she's come full circle, or not quite, because that would mean that she was back to no agency. She's flipped the switch.
Yeah. Yeah, there was another quote that I pulled that was from this omniscient narrator view that like that
Mm.
might have been the moment where Carrie went over the edge. She'll get every last one. And that was at 79%. But interestingly, with the emotional arc conversation, like typically we like to think of an emotional arc as like you have a starting place and you have an ending place. The emotional aha moment is that fulcrum where you switch from thinking this thing to realizing it's wrong and thinking this thing.
Hmm.
That in horror is usually like, I won't survive to I will survive. And that absolutely is present here. But the whole like 0 to 78%, she starts off with no agency, but then she goes home and she starts messing with what she can lift. She
Hmm.
starts trying to flex this muscle and see how far she can go. When she gets asked to prom by Tommy, she makes her own dress. She's excited. She stands up to her mother
Hmm.
and tells her, I'm doing this, and then threatens to do the rocks again, which is amazing.
Yep.
But we have like a steady growth of agency up until it gets taken away with the blood, and then it like dips and then goes way worse, right?
Hmm.
Instead of it being like, I think that I'm not going to survive this, I have no agency, which you kind of like in a typical emotional arc, you're reinforcing that throughout. And we
Hmm.
don't have that here until you have the emotional realization, right? Like she has no agency, but then she makes a decision to have agency when she goes back home. She's not sure what she's going to do with it, it seems like, but she is playing. And it's interesting. It works, right? It's one of these things where like,
Well, I wonder, and like I totally agree with everything you just said, and but like the point, and you and I talk a lot about this in terms of characters having agency, and because her emotional arc is to go from having no agency to having all the agency to like being, this godlike power who is controlling everything around her, literally. Um, I wonder if like if she couldn't maintain having no agency from like start to whenever the arc is going to be,
no,
because a character having no agency, like we don't care about that character, right?
right.
It would be telling a story that like everybody would put down. Because nothing was happening to them. They weren't really like invested in anything. Like the world is passing them by and stuff is happening to them, but it's
Hmm.
not affecting them really in any way. So I wonder if it's because of that specific arc that he chose, which is, obviously really smart and works, that it had to be that slow burn of a build in that particular way because it's all around her agency, which all protagonists
Yeah.
need to have.
Well, and maybe I just suggested that the emotional beginning is not so much about agency, it's about her self-worth or something. Like
Mm,
because she doesn't feel like she has, she's just like at her lowest moment ever in the locker room, aside from the prom, where they dump
yeah.
the blood on her. But it's we don't see a lot of her interiority, so it's
Nope.
hard to, it's not like a typical, again, modern
Yeah.
horror or thriller where we're sitting there with the in the character's head and having them think like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Like we
Yeah.
don't really ever see that from her because she knows that she's more powerful than everyone. She's just choosing not to use it. And
Mm.
then when they push her over the edge, that's when the flip switches. Um,
Yeah, maybe it's powerless to powerful, which is a similar way,
yeah,
like it gets at the same thing, but it's not, it's a little bit, it's a that lens that my favorite, one of my favorite metaphors, like that you're at the optometrist office and they click the
yeah,
lens in, and it's just like, so it's related, but it's not exactly the same,
yeah,
it's a iteration of it.
yeah. It's interesting. And I mean, again, this all works, right? But I love
Hmm.
unpacking like what actually makes it tick. And I part of it is like we are totally on her side because we're seeing her take action
Hmm.
against this powerless thing and like going into her power. And then by the time she goes to prom, she has this full ability, but she has no intention of using it. And then she uses it. Um, and so another thing we like to say over at Shadows and Secrets is that mystery, thriller, suspense, and horror are the villain's journey as experienced by the protagonist. And that totally fits this, right? Like
Hmm.
the mean girl, remind me of her name. I have it
Chris.
written down.
Chris.
Great. What?
Chris.
Chris. Chris.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. What a nightmare she is. And her evil boyfriend, like again, they're the villains in
Hmm.
if with when Carrie's the protagonist. And so Carrie doesn't have any idea that they're planning this. We as the reader see everything. We know that everyone's going to die. We see the book, we see the newspaper articles, we see the radio transmissions later as like, everything's hitting the fan. But she has no idea that like Tommy has asked her because Sue asked her to right a wrong. She has no idea that the blood is being set up. She has no idea that she's about to be the butt of this joke. And so as the reader, the suspense is just sky high because we know what's going to happen. We don't know exactly how it's going to go down, which is classic thriller,
Hmm.
right? Like we don't
Yeah.
I mean, we know what the dangers are. We just don't know how it's going to go down is a better way of saying that. Um,
Yeah, the ultimate outcome,
yeah.
right? That's because that's been given away pretty much in the book jacket copy, honestly, or like you can
Yeah.
infer from the book jacket copy what's going to happen because you know what kind of book you're picking up. But it's all in the how it unfolds,
Hmm.
and how does the protagonist experience that story that the villain has put into motion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
It really is.
Um, okay, so let's talk about percentages. So,
Mm,
uh, yeah, I mean, first chapter, inciting incident,
yep, right
classic.
there. I will
About 20,
also note, just for those people in the crowd who like love when Sam and I disagree on things, that like absolutely inciting incident is right there. It's right when this starts to happen. However, I did also note like on page 4, I think it was, there was actually like almost a full page of what might be considered a little bit of like backstory or contextual
mm,
information, sort of some exposition-y kind of things that explain like here is Carrie and why she is the butt of the joke, which I thought was really, really interesting. It literally goes like it's almost a full page worth of a paragraph that
wow.
just goes from like here's Carrie in first grade and all the things and all like how she was being picked on and teased, goes all the way up into like the moment where he says like suddenly all of this and critical mass was reached, the ultimate shit on, gross out, put down, long search for was found, fission. And in that one long, almost page long paragraph, he's taken us through like the bird's eye view of Carrie's bullying
Yeah.
from like her childhood all the way up until this moment. That
Yeah.
gives you even more of the contextual information that I love so much, that says, like here is why we care and what like it gives us more information about to make meaning out of everything that's happened. Like we already know this is not the first time that's happened to her. Like
Right.
she's clearly been the butt of the jokes, but then we kind of get like the full gamut of how bad it has been. And yeah, and that
Yeah.
she's like hapless, right? We definitely have sympathy for her because like she's this horrible thing is happening to her and everyone's being a total asshole. But also she is like not helping herself in this long paragraph where you see like she's kind of hapless. She, trips over her own feet and can't get out of the way and can't do anything right. So it's just a really interesting dynamic that he sets up there with like we empathize, but we're also like, oh my God, like this woman, this girl, whatever.
Girl, young woman, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the writing style is so classic Stephen King, and like, um, he changes over time, but like this little like injection of the parentheses or like something that's in italics that makes you kind of focus on the inner thought, it maintains throughout most of his writing, I would say.
Hmm.
But the stream of consciousness aspect of this makes it, I just realized, makes it feel even more sort of unhinged. And we're like, we don't
Yeah.
really know what's going on. And, again, with the thriller thing, like, again, it's not a classic thriller either because we know that everyone dies in the end. In thrillers, you don't know that it's not going to be able to be stopped. Like, you know who the villain is, you know who the protagonist is, and you understand that they're like competing. We're reading it to find out what happens.
Hmm.
In suspense, we don't know really, we don't know who and we don't know why and we don't know what to be scared of. We just know we're scared. In horror, we expect that things are going to go terribly wrong and that we're going to end up worse off than where we started,
Yep.
which is why horror is so suspenseful. And then in mysteries, of course, we're trying to solve what already happened. But this is a classic combination of like true horror, right? Because we know that everything's going to end terribly. And also, I mean, Amazon said it right, suspense thriller, right? Like
Hmm.
we have enough information to be like, nail biting the whole time. Um,
It's really like I just want to like note one more thing, which I think I was wondering why he did it this way, and I wonder if this is why. Thank you for helping me make sense of that. And that is, we do bounce around a lot between like putting us in scene in somebody's head, close third POVs that, but we know like overall it's omniscient, and then jumping between like these reports and articles and everything. And that you're so right. It gives this sense of disorientation and also like who do you believe? Who do you trust?
right.
What's actually happening? Is like this AP news report that's coming out, like is that
Yeah.
trustworthy? Is like like somebody who's the drunk guy who like went to the jail to sleep it off and like is the one ends up manning the phones because the deputy's dead. Like, can we trust him? And also so many people have all said like, oh, I knew it was Carrie, and then you see like they're being questioned by this commission and there's like, how did you know? And like, I don't know, I just knew. Like, I didn't
Right.
know this girl, but like she was in my, like, I just knew it. So
Yeah.
that's a really like that. I think that technique is one of the things that leads to that like sort of disorientation or unsettling feeling, among other things.
Yeah.
That's really astute observation,
Oh,
Samantha.
thank you so much. Um, Remind me, like, are all the PO when we dip into Sue's head, part of
Mm,
it's her book, right?
yes.
And part
So I
of it
think
is
we're,
just the narrator dipping, like doing the octopus thing on her
yep.
head and putting tentacles in.
Yeah,
The octopus
exactly.
thing, by the way, is how I describe POV, just in case you're confused if you never heard me say that before. Think of POV like an octopus. This is omniscient. This is first person. This is third person.
I
So,
love it.
yeah.
I love it
Um,
so much.
yeah, so when we get into Sue's book, I remember as I was reading through being like, well, I can't believe you in your book either because you could be lying to me, right?
Yeah.
To your point of like all these books and all these different ways of telling this story, like we don't know what to believe.
Well, and you see, like, I think, one of the fun slash
Yes, that.
interesting things, one of the many,
Yeah.
is when the White Commission and they're
Yeah.
questioning Sue, and they're very antagonistic towards her, as opposed to like later you see them question a mother of one of the victims, and they're very
Hmm.
conciliatory towards her. They're like, whatever you need, like, tell your
Yeah.
story in your own way, in your own time. Whereas Sue, they're like completely hostile to her and be like, oh, is that how you remember it?
Right.
Like,
They're like, don't be mean to her.
yeah, yeah, it was really interesting. And so, like it does make you wonder, like, well, why are they being so mean to her? Do they think like she was an accomplice in some way, or like what is it about her that you're so differential to everybody else, you're not differential to her? Okay,
Yeah.
why? And
Yeah.
and is there something that I don't know? Like, am I not supposed to trust her? Maybe I don't.
It's just
Um, yeah.
just genius. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, I was just thinking as well that part of probably why this resonated with every single teenager ever who read it is that you can see yourself in all these people, right? Like we all were Carrie to a certain extent. We all were Sue who did a mean thing. There's a part of us who's Chris, and like it's all hyperbolic, which is meant to be
Mhm.
like you're not all this person. And like the principal, threatening to countersue and being like, oh, that worked, and like the dad who's defending the daughter. And it just, there's elements of all of this that I think, especially with like the heightened emotions with everything,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
you can project a little bit. And like,
Sure.
even I mean, particularly for me with Sue, it was like, again, as a teenage girl who is not perfect and made some mistakes, like, you know, hi. Uh,
Hi, all of
when
us, she said.
yeah, when Sue's like, I feel she's at 35%, she tells her boyfriend Tommy, like, I think what I did sucked and I want to make
Mm,
it right, and it's like, yes, what you did do sucked. I said that wrong, but you know what I mean.
I do.
Yeah. And Tommy's like, well, then don't do it again or whatever. Like he's just like such a good guy and like so stable, And I loved it when we were in his POV and he's like nice to Carrie, because
Yeah.
kindness costs nothing and it's just it's just lovely. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that I think it's why it resonates. And also just the who doesn't want to have like a latent power, when you're
Oh
so
God.
powerless as a teenager, you have so little agency over what you're doing and to be
I
like, oh,
so wanted this as a superpower when I
oh
read the
yeah,
book. I was
yeah,
like, can this please be real and can it somehow latently wake up in me too? Thank you.
totally.
I don't want to like murder my whole town, but
No,
like I just like to, you know,
I
just be
just
able
want
to
to just
do it and be
yeah,
cool.
it'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Um,
um
and just a random thing. I don't know. You mentioned the principal, which is why this popped in. I remember like a detail that has stuck with me for 30 years or however long. It's probably been more than that since I had read this book. Him mangling the paper clips.
yes,
That is like that. I don't know what it is about that detail, but you know how there are those moments in a book where you're just like, I don't know why, but that's sticking with me. That one has stuck with me for 35 years or whatever. It's just like,
incredible.
I don't know. It's so perfect. Like, and he's like, yeah, I got to oh, that was a 7 paperclip meeting. Like, I
It's
just
so
loved it.
great. But this is, I mean, talk about a single detail that
Hmm.
defines that. Like, I don't remember his name. I mean, I wrote his name down recently because I reread the book, but I could never have told you his name before.
No, no.
But I too remembered the paperclip thing. And, there's just little things in here where it's like hyper specific detail will
Yeah,
help define a character so much for your readers, other than, we don't want to hear about what his office looks like or like what he's wearing
yeah.
or whatever, but this little tick,
Yep. Or like describing, like the actual like hair oil that not Tommy, Billy, the boyfriend, the villain boyfriend, the actual like brand name, which I don't even know if they make it anymore, but it wasn't like, he was greasing his hair or anything. Like he's literally like using those brand names and like certain thing. Like he is a master of this, of like
Yeah.
creating a world and just finding the right details to be so immersive, which is like we've talked about, like one of the things that I absolutely love and adore. And it's what makes his books, for me, at least through the first part of his career, that I haven't read a lot of his stuff recently, so I don't know how well, like I'm sure he evolved just like we all do. But that first set of books for like 15 or 20 years, like you could just read me a passage and I'd be like, that's Stephen King. Like I wouldn't
Totally.
have to see the book jacket and know. I would just know because of he has a voice. He has a definite authorial voice. And that
He
is part of
does.
it. Picking out those little like details that describe the world that he's created and the culture that he's in this small town in Maine.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, really, really brilliant.
it is really brilliant. And I will say that I mean, Stephen King does Omniscient really, really well. Not all of his books are omniscient. If you've heard us talk before, am not the hugest fan of omniscient POV. I in general, for MTS and horror, think that it's better the closer you are, the less the filter,
Mm.
the more the octopus has its tentacles in your head. And the reader forgets that they're not the protagonist, which for me is why I read MTS and horror,
Mm.
is like I want to experience these things and pretend I am this person for a little while. It's escapism. Not everyone feels like this, and that is totally fine. But I think that that's the difference, and this totally works. This story is very immersive, even though it's omniscient. Um,
I
so
think I like omniscient when when obviously when it's done well, like it
yeah,
is here. But the thing that I think can work really well, and it has totally fallen out of favor, I think recently, maybe making a comeback, maybe fallen out of favor like 10 years ago or whatever, for the reasons that you describe, because I think like we're already in a high stakes, high octane genre.
Mm-hmm.
And then being as close to that, being in close third or first person, which emphasizes that. But the omniscient thing, where I think it can be really fun to play with, is like you're the puppet master. You're
Yeah.
like playing with all of the elements. And if you can, puppet master correctly and weave everything together, then that's just like another element that you can play with to like have someone sit back when they're done and be like, oh, I see what you did there. Like
Yeah.
dropping in all those, contemporaneous accounts of what happened to keep that disorientation feeling going, elements like that. And having us questioning who to believe and who not to believe, and who do we really empathize with, and all of that kind of thing. I think
Yeah.
that's the beauty of an omniscient POV when it's done well.
Right. Well, and we're signing up as the reader to be manipulated, and we're there to enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like mess with
exactly.
me. And like I'm here for this book and just like play with my brain, play with my expectations, play with my assumptions.
Yep.
Yeah. Chef's kiss. Okay.
Indeed.
So midpoint, I argue, is Billy kills a pig.
Yep,
Um,
that's exactly what I had to.
yeah,
So
because
no argument here.
first of all, gross. Secondly, they
Totally.
don't just kill one pig, they kill two. They don't need to kill two, but they killed
No,
two.
but they do.
Shows us what a true little baby psychopath Billy is.
Hmm.
And then there's no going back, right? You have two buckets full of blood and gross.
Yep.
Um, and then we go to part two at 51%. So it's like Billy kills the pig, and then we go part two, and it's prom night. And so we're like, buckle up. And interestingly, um, all of this lasts over like the course of what, a couple weeks, But prom night part two, the night of prom is when everything happens, and that goes from 51% of the book to 100% or 98%, because we have
Yeah,
a little
yeah. I
bit of
was
the
gonna say like
opposite.
there is a part three, but it's really short. It
Yeah,
could be an epilogue, and today they might just call it an epilogue.
yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
yeah, you're exactly right. This like that
it's
6-ish hours, 8 hours is like one half of the book.
Yeah. And there's a whole lot that sort of just ticks along in there. It's like we get to prom and Carrie looks pretty and like people are complimenting her and they're the ballot thing with Chris and like,
Mhm.
then we're seeing the blood is up there, but we don't see a whole lot of like looking at the blood. It's like we just know it's there. It's like, Chekhov's gun. But obviously we know that something's going to happen with it.
Well, we had
Um,
a few pages where like, and that was actually one place where I was like, okay, I could move this along, which, in a 200-page book, like had to have 2 pages where I was like, oh, like that's nothing. But we do see Billy breaking into the school and like
yeah,
wiring it all
yeah.
up and everything. And I think I was just like, I think I'm supposed to be tracking logistics here. And like, no, he put the blood. I don't care how the pulleys work.
Who cares? Who
Like,
cares? Yeah. Totally. And because we're in an omniscient POV, I noted at 58%, right after Carrie pushes back against her mom,
mhm.
um, there's a line that says he and George had less than 2 hours to live.
Mm,
And you're just like, okay, like we already know it's going to happen because of all the other stuff, but you cannot, that kind of thing, if you're in like close third or something, they'd have no way of knowing that
right,
unless they're
right.
looking back. And so it works so beautifully, just again.
Yeah, it's the kind
Um,
of foreshadowing that you have to be careful with, but I think in
yeah.
this case it feels like he drops those hints in just as a little reminder of like, in case you forgot, this
Right.
is why we're here. Everything's going to hell real soon.
Yeah. And then it very slowly sort of builds. So I noted some things like 68% Sue feels like the world is coming to an end.
Mm.
And then a quote, for a fleeting second, he was literally scared shitless. Tommy on having Carrie's name pushed into his head, which she does, like right before everything happens. Um, and then I pulled this as well. This must have been like around 69%. Still applause, swelling and booming and crackling. Tommy Ross, in the fading moments of his life now, took Carrie's hand and grinned at her, thinking that Susie's intuition had been very right. Somehow she grinned back. And then, you know, uh, the laughter began 70%. And that's when the blood.
So, yeah, when you think about the climactic moment,
It's
because we
early.
get it from so many POVs, it like starts
70.
happens at
Yeah.
70%, and then we don't get Carrie's actual POV on it until I've written 75 or 76% is when
Yeah.
we actually are in her, but like we see it through like, some omniscient stuff, some exposition. We see the gym teacher, I think, from her POV. We
Yeah,
see like testimony from one of the girls who escaped. So yeah, we actually get a bit. It's a slow burn of a climax as you're ever gonna get,
it
but it
is. Yeah.
doesn't feel that way.
Little plug for online thriller school through ITW. I just
Hmm.
watched Brian Andrews and Isabella Maldonado talk about action scenes and how to write action scenes. And this is so relevant. They were talking about action sequences instead of an action scene and how you can stretch that out. And that's exactly what's happening here.
Oh, okay.
Like
I
we
need to
have
check that
something
out.
start to happen, and then we have like this whole, we have, however many pages that is, 30% of the book where it's spread out over the next 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that Stephen King did here, which I don't actually know that I agree with, but I didn't notice it the first time I read through, and then when I did my reread again for this, he jumps around in time a little bit. So it's like
Mm.
10:25, 10:46, 10, I'm making this up now, but like 10:15, like we
Yeah,
kind
I
of go
noticed that too.
back and forth, and like it kind of works. It works, like it didn't like confuse me.
Yeah, I never tripped over it, but I did note it that like, oh, we're going back in time now a little bit because yeah, they're definitely, but maybe because he's really upfront about that he's doing it because he's telling you what the times are, like,
Yeah.
and it's very it has a feeling of like a little bit of a TikTok, as they would say in
Yeah.
like the journalism business of like, here's the play by play. And so you're
Yes.
getting like minute to minute what's happening. And so you're even though you're jumping around, I mean, like, there's a reason for it too, right? Because you're taking us in somebody's POV or in that expository, epistolary kind of thing, I should say, of like in the testimony or the newspaper article or whatever. It's reporting that moment in its whole as
Oh,
a contained thing, and then it's
very
like, oh
well
no, we need to
said.
go back to Sue, and we need to
Yeah, yeah.
jump back in with Sue at 10:15, and play her out through 10:42 when she gets in the car. I'm making that up too, but like,
Yeah, but
and then we
you're
go
close.
to Carrie at
Yeah.
10:25, you know?
Very, very well said.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. There was a moment right after the laughter began, and the quote I pulled that said, "Had to laugh or cry, and no one was going to cry for Carrie." One
Yeah,
sentence, right? We get so much. I mean, it was like some random person in the audience. It
yeah,
wasn't anyone that we even remember.
right. It
And
wasn't a named character,
but
I don't think.
like, you know, so just, yep, that's exactly how you would view uh something that you're like, this is so awful, but it's also a little funny. And writing that line, like it's not funny that she was this was pranked, right? It's not funny that Tommy
Right.
died. It's not, none of that is funny. But the concept of someone like stumbling on stage a little bit, like there's a human instinct, and he nails it. Like you have to
Yeah.
laugh or cry. You're like, there's so much emotion built up into this, and like being on stage already, it's like all these eyes on you, and it
Well,
just,
and like, what the hell just like if you're,
what
I
the hell
think,
just happened?
what the hell
Yeah.
just happened? And I like this flashed me back. So if I had a look on my face, it's because I was remembering the time when I was a small child and my brother, who was sitting next to me at the dinner table, started choking on a piece of steak. It was really, really scary. Like I
Yeah.
was terrified because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how to help him or whatever. He was like 6, I was like 7. And my reaction was to laugh because I was scared, and that's just how the energy came out. I didn't think it
Interesting.
was
Yeah.
funny. I was terrified, but like
Right.
I remember my mom or dad, one of them being like, "All right, get out of the room. Like we're dealing." And like, "Why are you laughing?" And like it wasn't like because I thought it was funny, like,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that like I really like leaned into that, and that I'm like, "Yes, like this absurd thing has just happened. People have just had buckets of blood dropped over them as king and queen of our prom." Like that's insane. What the hell just happened? So,
Right.
yeah, you have to let that out somehow, and it's just
Yeah.
of course it's going to come out as laughter.
Yeah.
And then
I
everybody
just,
kind of it like, segs into, oh, it's Carrie, so like of course,
right. Right. Exactly. But I think that, he could have left it at just the laughter began, and we would have been like, yeah, okay, a bunch of asshole
Mhm.
teenagers laughing at this thing
Right.
because, whatever. Instead, one line and you're like, oh, there's the humanity. Like
Yeah.
there's the explanation, and it makes it so much deeper. And we immediately have empathy for everyone in that gym, as where we whereas we didn't before. Like if you just have a bunch of kids laughing at this horrible thing that's just happened,
Yeah,
we're like,
they're all a
yeah,
bunch of assholes.
not that I want you to die, but like I'm okay with it in this book, right?
Yeah,
Instead,
exactly.
we feel their fear. And I wrote a little note that like the change to the fear is subtle and terrifying
Mm,
and like very just delicate. And then we, of course, learn that Tommy is hurt. Carrie gets outside. And then that beautiful moment where she's outside looking in and looking at the electrical cables.
yeah,
Um,
has her aha.
yeah, she has her aha. Uh, yeah, it's so awesome. And then in terms of percentages, so she enters the climactic scene. If you, I mean, the climactic scene percentage wise would be like it's around the same time she has the emotional aha. Like this happens, and then
Mm,
it triggers her going full nuclear and destroying the
hmm
town, which is the climactic scene. But it's not like she planned to do any of this, right? Like she's definitely a victim, and then she gets all the power, and then all of a sudden we're kind of like, okay, well maybe that was like a little bit too much of a reaction, like maybe calm down. Um,
Don't explode the gym.
don't explode the gym. And then, of course, she does. And then we're like, all right, buckle up,
Yeah.
And she turned toward home at 83. She gets home at 86, slows down her mom's heart until it stops at 88%, which made me think that the mom is actually kind of like maybe the supervillain in all of this,
Mm,
um, because she's the one who really kind of caused all of the,
yeah.
you know,
If
emotion
she
around
hadn't had
everything.
that mother, do you think she would have ended up the way that she did?
Right, right, exactly.
I mean, you don't
Um,
know. You couldn't know, but
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like, Carrie conquers her villains, right? She kills the people that laughed at her, and that's her revenge. And then at 88%, which is still a part of the climactic scene, she kills her mom.
Mhm.
And then, you know, then we have her just go nuclear on the town, and she dies while not letting go of Sue at 95%.
But also, can we love like I had my final twist, which maybe not be yours, but like maybe it is that like won't let go of Sue while she's dying, but like that moment where Billy and Chris come out of the roadhouse and get in his car because they want to go back to Chamberlain because the
Yeah,
roadhouse isn't in Chamberlain, and he turns on his headlights and there she is in the street. I was like, I almost got a jump scare just reading
yeah,
that, and I can't
I
like I
know.
can picture it on the screen just being like, oh, so
Totally. Oh God, it's so great.
it is really good.
And then I wrote down, I forgot that this had happened until just now. Sue gets her period as soon as Carrie dies
Yep.
at 96%. And you're like, did she just transfer I mean, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then of course we learned that like 67 high school seniors died, 440 people died. And then the very last page, the baby has
Perfect
telekinesis.
horror ending.
Yeah.
Mwah.
And no way to stop such a person. And it's like, hell, yep. And then just thank you, Stephen King.
Yep.
What
Yep.
an incredible story. I'm so
Well
glad that this
done.
got written. Yeah, it's incredible.
Even if it did make my not name sort of famous for all the wrong reasons.
Indeed. Indeed. No one's ever going to spell your name right on the first try. Yeah.
Nope, nope, never gonna happen.
Harry
Doesn't.
with the Irish spelling.
Yes, please.
Did we miss anything? We got inciting, we got emotional aha, we got story question, we got the twists,
Yep.
we
I think
got our
we got it all.
adoration of the King of Horror. Um, and
Indeed.
why, right? I mean, so horror for me is all about fear.
Yeah.
And he does a really good job with this of just we're constantly scared. Even when
hmm
something kind of banal is happening, like we understand that it's leading toward this thing. And so we're just like it's like the white knuckle feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well, and as you always say, like, horror specifically is not chaos brought to order, but chaos leading to more chaos.
yeah,
And so, like, I had a note, and it might not have been the first time. I mean, like, because he has these like journal articles and things throughout, it might have sort of come up obliquely. I don't entirely remember, but like at 84%, we're in the Q&A with Cora Simard, whose daughter was in the high school. And she's just finishing up her testimony and she says, "Can I ask a question?" And they say, like, yes. She says, "What happens if there are others like her? What happens to the world?" And like, I don't think it's the first time that that possibility was floated, but it was such a human moment. And then
yeah,
so to go from that to then the letter at the end of like, yeah, there's this little girl who's has her granny's power. Was just like, yes, it's gonna happen again,
so
isn't
great.
it?
So
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Well, we've been talking for an hour. Once again,
Yes.
thank you
Oh.
if you're still listening.
Bless you.
Bless you. If you enjoy this, we have all of them posted on our website, shadowsandsecrets.com. We run retreats, we run an online membership. We obviously are delights to hang out with if you are nerdy about story.
I
So
say, come nerd out with us, please and
come
thank
nerd
you.
out with us. And thank you.
Thank
We
you. We'll
adore
see you next
you.
time.